This video is based on the knowledge of Seneca, the Stoic sage of the Roman Empire. Have you ever wondered why so many people live as if they were immortal, wasting days, worrying about what doesn't matter, postponing the essential for a later that never comes? Seneca did not write to entertain. He wrote to awaken the soul. He lived among palaces and danger, advised emperors, and faced death with dignity. His words cut like a sharp sword, and at the same time, heal like a balm. And that's why in this video, you will discover the 10 most powerful lessons from Seneca. Lessons that can transform how you live, think, and even suffer. These are ideas that have endured for millennia because they touch the very essence of human existence: time, death, ego, anger, and freedom. So go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to wake up to life now, because life doesn't wait. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Master time, or it will master you. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." This phrase reveals one of the greatest tragedies of modern life, the illusion of time scarcity. We live too busy, rushing between tasks, distracted, consumed by notifications and productivity promises. But when silence comes, we realize we didn't really live. We just passed through life. Modern science confirms what Seneca knew 2,000 years ago. Researchers like Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman have shown that our perception of time is directly linked to attention and presence. The more distracted we are, the faster time seems to slip through our fingers. Seneca reminds us that time is not an external resource. It is the very substance of our life. And when we waste our time, we are not just losing minutes, we are giving up pieces of ourselves. You act as if you were immortal. You keep postponing life while time watches you in silence. He said, ask yourself, where is your time going? Is it being invested in living or wasted in merely surviving? Mastering time is not about speeding up. It is about learning to live with intention. Chapter 2. Calm is the greatest strength of the wise. Seneca wrote, "No evil harms us as much as that which we receive with agitation." We live in an age of reactivity. We shout before we understand, act before we think, judge before we observe. But true power, what truly separates the wise from the ordinary, lies in the ability not to react, but to respond with serenity. Calm is not passivity. It is internal discipline. It is self-mastery in the face of a chaotic world. Today, neuroscience explains this clearly. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for judgment and self-control, is in direct conflict with the amygdala, which generates impulses of anger and fear. Those who live in reactivity are constantly ruled by the most primitive part of the brain. Seneca knew this without any brain scans. He understood that those who anger easily are slaves to others words, external actions, and meaningless offenses. What offends me is not what others say, but what I allow to enter me. Imagine the power of walking through a turbulent day without being contaminated. To hear a provocation and keep your gaze steady. To be betrayed and still maintain integrity. Calm is not a momentary choice. It is a daily practice. It is what transforms ordinary men into untouchable sages. Chapter 3. Accept destiny, and you will be invincible. Seneca said, "Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling." How many times have you found yourself fighting against what you cannot control? The illness that came unannounced, the unexpected goodbye, the injustice that wounded deeply. It is natural to resist. It is human to revolt. But the Stoic understands, suffering for what is beyond your control is the most painful of prisons. Stoicism teaches us to separate what depends on us and what doesn't. And in this discernment lies the key to inner freedom. Today, science calls this the locus of control. People with an internal locus, those who focus on what they can change, are more resilient, less anxious, and happier. Those who blame the world, time, others, live in constant conflict with reality. Seneca proposes a pact with life. Do not fight against the current of fate. Learn to row with awareness, even when you can't change the river's direction. This is not about resignation, but about transforming the inevitable into spiritual strength. Accept everything as if you had wished for it. Then nothing can shake you. That is true invincibility, not the absence of pain, but the conscious acceptance of what the universe delivers. Chapter 4. Death is not the evil. The fear of it, as Seneca wrote, death frightens more by imagination than by reality. We live as if we were going to last forever. We postpone important conversations, silence true desires, endure the unbearable, all with the unconscious excuse that we still have time. But death is not a tragedy. The tragedy is living asleep, afraid to wake up to what truly matters. Seneca, with brutal clarity, invites us to make peace with finitude. He did not want us to think of death to depress us, but to free us, because when you accept that you're going to die, you finally start to live. Modern psychology calls this existential confrontation. Studies show that reflecting on one's own mortality can increase one's sense of purpose, strengthen relationships, and reduce anxiety. Death ceases to be a monster and becomes a mirror. You fear what will happen once, but ignore how much you've already wasted. Death does not steal life. It simply reveals how little of it we have truly lived. Seneca offers us a challenge. Look at death every day, not with fear, but with reverence, for only those who recognize they are leaving can wisely choose where it's worth staying. Chapter 5. Anger is a poison taken, hoping to harm the other. Anger is a temporary madness. Whoever controls it, controls himself. Seneca. Have you noticed how anger turns intelligent people into fools? How it erases discernment, calm, self-control in a matter of seconds? Seneca saw anger as a disease of the soul, something fed by the illusion of control, wounded ego, and unmet expectations. It rises from within, but blames the outside. And the cruelest part, it destroys the one who harbors it first. Modern neuroscience confirms what Seneca intuited centuries ago. When anger takes over the brain, the limbic system commands. The rational part is silenced. The body goes on alert. The heart races. Vision narrows. And often we say or do what later becomes regret. Seneca warned, an angry man always punishes more than the offense demands. Anger convinces us we're right, but rarely leads us to justice. It turns us into mirrors of the very harm we suffered. Want to overcome anger? Don't fight it with force, but with clarity. Observe it, breathe, name it, take a step back. Because only those who can remain serene in the fire truly govern themselves. Chapter 6. Wealth is having few needs, not many possessions. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has little, but the one who desires more, who is poor." We live in a society where success is measured by possessions, cars, houses, money, titles. But the more we have, the more we fear losing, and the more we desire, the more enslaved we become by what we still don't possess. Seneca saw this as one of humanity's greatest delusions. He believed that true wealth lies in freedom, not in material abundance. Curiously, modern studies on happiness confirm this. Harvard researcher Daniel Gilbert showed that beyond a certain point, more money does not bring more happiness, but more anxiety, competition, and frustration. The wealth Seneca advocated is not what's stored in the bank. It's what's felt when you can look around and say, I have enough. Nothing is missing. I can live in peace. And he practiced what he preached. Despite his high social status, he would spend days living like the poor, sleeping on the floor, eating the bare minimum, wearing simple clothes. Not out of masochism, but freedom, because the one who learns to live with little is never dominated by fear of loss. And he who needs little owns everything. Chapter 7. Rehearse hardship before it arrives. Seneca said, train yourself for poverty so that it doesn't catch you off guard. It sounds contradictory, doesn't it? Why would anyone choose to suffer on purpose? The answer is simple, so that when life stops being kind, you won't be destroyed by surprise. Seneca advised his students, rich men, nobles, politicians, to live from time to time as if they were poor, to sleep on the floor, eat the simplest food, wear the humblest clothes, and ask, is this what I was so afraid of? This practice, called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, strengthens the soul, fortifies the spirit, and puts fears into perspective. Today, science calls it trained resilience. Behavioral psychology studies show the human brain adapts better to crises when it has been previously exposed to controlled challenges. It's like building emotional antibodies for the unexpected. Seneca was not a pessimist. He was a realist with courage. He knew that life, sooner or later, will test each of us. That's why he didn't wait for the winds to change. He learned to navigate in silence. And when the storm came, he was already prepared. Chapter 8. Care for your mind more than your body. Seneca wrote, it is not the sick body we should worry most about, but the soul that suffers in silence. We live in a time obsessed with the body. Crowded gyms, trendy diets, beauty procedures, biohacking. But how many care for their minds with the same dedication? How many sit in silence to observe what they feel, think, fear? Seneca saw the body as a vehicle, but the mind as the driver. And he warned, what good is a strong body if the soul is fragile and lost? The mind, when neglected, begins to rot slowly in the form of repressed anger, masked anxiety, unprocessed resentment. It decays without visible symptoms until one day it collapses. Today, science confirms, neglecting mental health affects sleep, immunity, relationships, even longevity. It's no exaggeration to say that thinking poorly is a slow way to die. Seneca recommended caring for the mind with the same dedication a gardener gives to the soil. Daily reflection, philosophical reading, voluntary silence, and above all, constant self-inquiry. You care for your appearance, but what about your character? You watch your diet. But what about your emotions? The mind, like the body, needs cleansing. And the greatest luxury you can have is a light, lucid mind at peace with itself. Chapter 9. Choose your company wisely. They shape you. Seneca wrote, The soul is gradually shaped by the souls of those we live with. Have you noticed how, after a while with someone, we start speaking similarly, thinking alike, even feeling as they do? This is not coincidence, it is neuroscience. Studies show we are wired to absorb behaviors, emotions, and attitudes from those around us. Mirror neurons make our social environment act directly on our brains. Seneca knew this long before any lab. He warned, walking with foolish, superficial, selfish, or angry people does not leave you neutral. It contaminates you. Slowly, without noticing, you begin to accept what you once rejected. Laugh at what used to offend you, desire what never mattered before. You don't just share words with someone, you share your soul. Seneca didn't advocate arrogance or isolation. He advocated conscious selection. Does the person beside you elevate your mind or drain your energy? He invites us to cultivate bonds with those who challenge us wisely, who bring clarity, who make us more whole, not more fragmented. Because in the end, you don't become who you wish. You become who you frequent. Chapter 10. Live as if you were already departing. Seneca wrote, "You are mistaken if you think life lies ahead. A great part of it has already passed. It's common to think life is always ahead. When I finish this, when I get that, when I have time. But time is not something you have, it is something you were given, and it's running out." Seneca said we should live each day as if it were the last, not in a melancholic tone, but with urgency of meaning, because tomorrow is a promise that may not be kept. And what isn't lived today dies today. This aligns deeply with the modern concept of mindfulness, to be fully present now, recognizing that this moment, this exact instant, is all there is. He said, "You act as if you had 1,000 years to live, but death is at the door. While you delay, life passes." The true sage, according to Seneca, is not the one who waits for old age to reflect on life. It is the one who lives so that if death came now, he would not be ashamed. So if today were your last day, what would you change? What would you say? Whom would you forgive? What would you stop fearing? A full life to Seneca is not long. It is intense, lucid, honest. And it begins the moment you accept you are not living forever. You've just heard the 10 most powerful lessons from Seneca, the Stoic sage who lived surrounded by emperors, wars, and political intrigues, yet found, amid chaos, the peace of an invincible spirit. He didn't teach us to escape pain, but to face it with courage. He didn't promise a life without hardships, but a soul strong enough to endure them. Seneca believed that each of us has the responsibility to govern ourselves, and that governance begins when we stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. So if any of these lessons touched you today, don't let them pass. Comment, "Today, I choose to live consciously." Share this video with someone who needs these truths. Subscribe and stay on the path of wisdom. Because life is short, but the impact of an awakened soul is eternal.